Ammar, we are going into some uncertainty. What is going to happen with Red Bull and McLaren and their driver lineups going into 25 and 26? Because there is a lot of rumor and there is a lot of uncertainty and there are a lot of drivers knocking at the door.
Oof.
I don't think what we have right now is what we're going to have in 2 years' time. What do you
Really?
reckon? Right. So we are coming to the end of 2024. We've got 6 races left to go. There's intrigue finally in the championship. But I think, Amar, there's also some intrigue in the driver lineups of the top 4 teams. Now I'm gonna hedge my bets here and say that a few of those lineups are already fairly locked in, certainly for next year. So I think Ferrari, we already know, is going to be Lewis and Charles. And Mercedes currently is going to be Kimi Antonelli and George Russell. But I think if you look a bit further afield, McLaren, Red Bull, and actually I think Aston Martin now as well are a bit more uncertain in terms of where their lineups are going to be. And what I wanted to have a little chat about is where we think over the next 24 months, what we think those lineups are going to be.
Hmm.
Before we talk about that, I do want to mention something about the relative strengths of the teams that we've talked about. I think McLaren are currently on a trajectory that suggests that they're going to be top 3 teams going forwards. They have everything they need really to continue to compete at the level that they are competing at, technically at least. I think Red Bull are going to find that they're starting to slip back a little bit unless they can arrest the slide that they're on at the moment, including the loss of some of their really senior staff. And I think Aston, as I've said before on this channel, I think are going to be somewhere competing near the front come 2026. So I think that needs to be taken into account a little bit when we're talking about who's going to be in these seats, because how competitive a team is dictates to some extent um, how attractive they are to top line drivers. Okay, so that being said, why don't we start with McLaren? 2025, what's their lineup, Ammar?
I love how you said all of that. I think we should also add that contracts in Formula One mean nothing, right? Like because it's everything's there, everything's multi-year, which can be 2 or 20, who knows, right? Or somewhere in between, right? I
No
think
end.
yeah, exactly. Um, Going into 25, I think it's fair to say that both Lando and Oscar will start, right? And um I don't know. McLaren would be pretty crazy to want to change that, despite all of the recent consternation and papaya rules. And do we put our weight behind Lando or Oscar or whatnot? And I think next season, I think it's going to be even to start with, no, and we'll find out maybe up until the summer break where everyone's at. Um, I don't personally don't see any reason why they should change their lineup. I guess we just don't know what the contract details are. I mean, Lando Norris signed an extension earlier this season. I mean, we've kind of forgotten about all of that, right? Given that I think his was the first announcement. I think Leclerc was second, and then it was Lewis Hamilton that sort of overshadowed everything. And then since then, it's all been up in the air. So I don't know. Does Lando really want to leave a team that he has been with forever? Like I don't know, and especially at this point in time, as you say, they're on the ascendancy, right? Um,
Could it be taken out of his hands? The only fly in the ointment is Gabriel Bortoleto is currently leading F2 in his rookie season, having already won F3 in his rookie season. That's Oscar Piastri settings, that is. That's success in a competitive season. So just remember the F2 grid this year is not any old grid. It's contained Ollie Behrman, who's already confirmed at Haas, Kimi Antonelli, who's already confirmed at Mercedes, Isaac Hadjar, who's well rated by Red Bull, second currently, and now Gabriel Bortoleto, who's brought himself into contention as a rookie in that season. So McLaren are not going to want to let him go. I think Sauber have already put out the feelers and have been rejected very quickly. So is one of those seats potentially at risk? And if so, which one?
I mean, I suppose it is, right? But again, I would have to wrap my head around the idea that the McLaren extended Lando Norris for really starting next season. No, actually, the season for 26 on.
Contracts in F1 mean
Yeah,
nothing.
I know. I
Amar
agree.
Dalal,
No, no,
2024.
I agree with you, and of course, look, Oscar could want to move back to Alpine too. Like, who knows, right? Because I don't know, right? But and you know what I mean there. But I think you're right. I mean, it's going to be interesting, right? And I feel like every team goes through this, no, in some way. Like you end up having either too much talent or too little, and you have striking that fine balance in terms of getting the timing right makes sense, makes it difficult rather. Um, I don't know. I think a lot depends on next season, no? I think if there is
I
schism,
think it depends on this season. That's the problem.
if Lando
So
doesn't win this year, then you
no, no, no. Well, I think you're right. I think yes, there's a double combo of Lando not winning the title this year and Bortoleto winning F2 this
are
year.
those two the same things? I mean, one guy is going up against Max Verstappen, no? So,
And the
uh,
other's going up against Max Verstappen Jr. in F2,
and
apparently.
Isaac Hadjar, is that what we're doing there?
Kimi Antonelli,
Oh,
if we're
come
to believe
on. No, we
everything
can't do that.
we're
Can't.
told.
No, 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 we can't do that. Come on. Like it's still not
You might
apples and
not do that,
oranges.
but
It's still not
you
apples
know,
and oranges. I mean, come on. Like it's
but where where every team has got their little 17-year-old teenager. Merck have got
yeah,
theirs. McLaren have got theirs. Red Bull are trying to develop theirs in Arvin
yeah, but
Lindblad.
but look at where McLaren are.
And McLaren don't have a junior team to send
Well,
it to. I think this is part of the reason that Zach Brown constantly
yes,
is at Red Bull's throat about having two teams because they don't have another place to send their
he
juniors.
should go out and buy a second team. Listen,
Could
even
do.
even if Lando doesn't win the championship, I think it's fair to say that he would come very close to Max, right? He's going to be a close
Yeah,
second. He's not going to be a distant second. It's not like last
sure.
year there was Max and
Second
then
is second, though.
right, correct. But I mean, what that also means is he's top three. The rest of this way, he's probably got a few more wins in there. I mean, it's not. We're talking about Lando as if he's Checo Perez, right? And that's
Okay,
not
so
what this is.
because you reckon Oscar's at risk then?
I don't think either driver could have. I mean, again, look, sitting here today, if we are to believe everything that you're saying, that McLaren is in the ascendancy, and I think that's also relative, no, right? It depends on what other teams do. Do are Ferrari going to be at the top with two, really big championship contenders, arguably the best lineup. The Mercedes thing is a bit of a question mark between their car and, of
But
course,
they're
the rookie
confirmed though, aren't they, for
driver.
25?
No, no, but it's a question of how competitive they are, right? And where McLaren are relative to that. Are they in firmly in the fight for both championships with two other teams? Are they just there by themselves? Yeah, many
But I
things
think
shades to that, no?
sure, but that's irrelevant, right? Because when you get to the end of 2024, current form suggests that they will continue to be
Absolutely.
competitive
Yes,
next
of
season.
course.
So those are two prime seats,
But we
right?
don't know about 26, no? We're talking about 26, so a lot of that depends on
Oh no, I remember I took that back. We're still talking about 25.
we're still talking about 25. Okay. All right, but I mean I don't know how you can make that change this year. Like that just sounds insane. That just absolutely sounds insane.
So
I
what
mean,
happens to
it's not like
Bortoleto then?
Lando has
Where's he
been
going
a
to go?
scrub or anything, no. It's not. I mean, what are we doing here? And neither has Oscar, by the way. Like they already have. Just the question is, are you going to be remarkably better with putting in Gabriel Bortoleto in there? Like I can't make the argument for that. Like yes, he might be. It's not like I can't call him the second coming of Kimi Antonelli because I knew about Kimi Antonelli way more than I did about Gabriel Bortoleto. And of course, Alonso has a lot.
Okay.
But
Okay, so let's say okay, fine. Let's say they do the sensible thing and stick him on the sidelines for 25, which is going to be tough because everyone's going to come knocking at his door, but they're going to have to put him on the sidelines, which again is a shocking indictment of Formula 2, if I'm honest. Um,
yeah.
Come 2026, what's going to
Yeah, that
happen
depends.
then?
It depends on how 25 goes. We're also, I mean, we're talking about how McLaren would make this decision in a vacuum. You don't know how Lando Norris feels. You don't know how Oscar Piastri feels. You don't know what's happening at those other teams.
Conjecture, my friend. This is what I
No,
want
no,
you to
I know.
do.
I'm just stating it as sort of a matter of there's another moving piece to this, right? It takes two to tango, no? So that's kind of where you're at with this, right? So part of it is if there's some discomfort between Lando and Oscar. Oh, by the way, you bring in Gabriel Bortoleto, and him and Oscar are also going to have that same tension. Like it's
Of course
not
they are.
bringing him a
Of
number
course they
two
are. But
driver.
would
So
Bortoleto potentially be a step up in performance on on one of them?
I can't say that. I mean, Lando Norris is,
Of course
I
you
know
don't.
there's been a lot of criticism of Lando. I think it's very stretched, and it's also in the whale of comparing him to the F1 greats, which you have repeatedly done. And I've said that that's fine, but that's high compliment to him that you expect him to be Max-like or Lewis-like in the way he goes about things. But he has been doing really well. He's been very consistent. He has not been mistake-free. I'm not saying that he's been without mistakes. But again, for us to sit up here and say that a
I
rookie
mean,
driver, even as great as he might be, to come in, just look, man, you don't even you brought up Kimi Antonelli as an example. Toto had Lewis going for next year. He had that in plan and actually had a 2-year contract. So the whole thing was going to be kind of up in the air, right? It's only because Lewis decided to leave for Ferrari that Kimi got that seat. Otherwise, he might have been there for another year. And oh, by the way,
most
yeah,
likely he would have had a
Max was the favorite
second.
to be in that seat, though. So just think
Yeah,
about
but if you win F2, you're not going back to F2 again. That's how that works, right?
yeah.
So what are they going to what do they do?
They can
Because
do.
they don't have a second seat that they can put him in. They
They
don't have
loan him
links with
out.
another team.
Yeah.
They're a customer team themselves, so they can't ship him out to another customer team. So they're going to have to put him somewhere in 2026
Yeah, I don't
or
know
risk
that.
losing him. So of those, I'm gonna hold your feet to the fire. Of the two, who do you think's gonna who do you think's gonna
So
is gonna go? Oscar or Lando? Or
I
do you
don't think
think that or
either
do you
of
think
them.
McLaren will just let Bortoleto go?
Correct. You let him go because even as great as you think he might be, you already have something that's great. As a team, it's great.
Do
Now we
you?
can argue whether Oscar's the alpha or Lando's the alpha or yada yada yada, but they are great as a team. They've invested so much in Lando too. It's kind of like the Leclerc story in many ways, right? They've invested in him. Well, now he's been with the team what 6 7 years. Good God, however long he's been. You go into that with into 2026 with that lineup. Why would you do that? And there's a good chance they're going to win a championship next year with the
Yeah.
drivers, right? So I don't know. I can't see that.
Yeah, I think personally that come the end of 25, if Oscar continues the trajectory that he's taking at the moment and starts to really rule the roost, I think Lando's probably going to say, I've had enough, I want to go somewhere else. And
He's
I
going to
think,
pull a Daniel Ricciardo. Is that what he's going to do now?
yeah, if I'm
I
honest, that's
mean,
what I think
so
he's going to
but
do.
but Chess, to hold your feet to the fire, you're not answering the question as McLaren. Now you're saying Lando's going to leave, which I said could happen. He himself
Yeah.
might say, yes, I
But
want
I
to do.
think that's where those moving
But if he
parts are going to
doesn't leave,
go.
then what?
They'll find a way.
Exactly. So this is my point, right? Like,
I
so
think they'll find a way to. I think of the two, I think Oscar's probably going to have the beating of Lando come next year, and as long as
even
the
if he's
car,
beating Lando, right? Even if he's
hmm,
and Lando's finishing in the top five, why would you make that change? Like, you can't have two drivers winning each race.
because
You're not
you're
going to
also
win at
trying to
the same time.
future proof your team. What you
Yes.
don't want to
Well,
happen,
Lando is so
what you
young.
don't want,
Get that too.
Amar, what you don't want to happen to your team is what is currently happening to Red Bull, which I think is a nice segue into what is happening at Red Bull because they have a big bloody problem.
Yes. It's a very
They
different problem, though, I would add. A one that involves sponsorship too. But yeah.
Yeah, maybe, but the fact that they've like, okay, sponsorship being what it is, do you think that if Red Bull had Kimi Antonelli or equivalent ready to step up into Sergio Perez's seat, that all the sponsorship dollars in the world would stop that talent from being in that seat?
Yes, it would stop. Not the sponsorship dollars, but guess who you have in the other seat? You have Max Verstappen, and all along they have said and shown you that they wanted Max to be the alpha driver, and that's why Checo has stayed. I mean, that's just it. Checo's got Max's endorsement, even as bad as he has been in these last couple of races. And then look, in fairness to him, the car is crap too, right? And it was really crap. And again, we've praised Max for what he's done with the car, right? But at the same time, any other driver might struggle. And Max has shown to be a teammate killer. I mean, did you forget Pierre Gasly? Did you forget Alex Albon? So I can't sit up here and say that they
Yeah,
would have really done that. Maybe
but
if
those.
they've purposely done that, Shez. You could argue that they've kind of delayed whatever this is, or maybe let go of, one cycle of generational talents because they already have one.
So they've purposefully let go of a
Who have they let go
generation
of?
of talent. But who did they let go of?
Yeah,
No
exactly.
one.
That's what I'm saying. They maybe didn't even try. That's my point. Look, when you have a Max Verstappen, why would you look elsewhere? You don't need two Max Verstappens or even
No, but
five.
Max Verstappen is a flight risk right now because they don't have
Okay,
a
now it's
car.
no, no, no. But now is a different deal, right? Now the Adrian Newey. I mean, this is what I'm saying. Like there
And
are other
and the
factors.
fact
Now it's
that
a different.
a Max Verstappen doing the business on his own, with Perez not doing the business, is costing them a championship this year.
Yeah, but they also have themselves to blame. Like their car is crap now, and at this stage, it's barely hanging on. And we're gonna find out really quickly when the second break
Ammar,
is over.
to win a constructors championship, you shouldn't need to have one driver winning every race and the
Yes,
other driver not getting out of
absolutely.
quali
But that
one.
doesn't mean you need a Kimi
Because you
Antonelli.
can't have that. You can't have that every season. But you
You
do
don't
need
need.
someone
We
who's a
have
bit better than
Carlos
Checo
Sainz in
Perez.
that second seat. You don't need a
Right, but
Kimi.
they don't even have Carlos Sainz.
But that's what I'm saying. That's by their own choosing. It's not like Carlos wasn't wanting to move there. I mean, and evidently there's still an exit clause in his contract that says that if there's a Red Bull opening, that he might be able to. So my point is, you're
Yeah, not
absolutely right
not
that
not a bad point. But
they,
if they could take Lando, do you think they wouldn't take Lando?
of course they
I
would.
think they would.
But Lando's not Max, right? We've established that. No, again,
But to be a partner to Max would be perfect.
yeah, I think the Red Bull thing is a different. Yeah, man,
I think
they could.
that's why they put the offer in to Lando at the beginning of the
Red Bull
season.
could
They
look
wanted him because
completely different. Yeah, but it could look completely different. Of course, but yes, sure. They got in early. I also think they were just kind of, this is the kind of stuff you do to make your competitor bully out more, that kind of
but
stuff.
I think that was a serious play because actually Lando would be the perfect number two at Red Bull. He's quick, but he's not going to challenge Max. Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, he wouldn't, and they get along well too. So I think that's probably one of those factors. He would have definitely
Boxes
more
ticked.
better than what Checo was able to do, right? And look, partly why, I mean, we kind of forget how Checo landed there too, right? Is when they departed, when they let Albon depart or whatever, well, how you want to frame that, let him go to AlphaTauri or whatever it was back then. The whole idea was that they would get a sort of a steady hand in Checo to kind of complement what Max
Yeah,
did.
and Amar, the other big question here is that you're not necessarily thinking necessarily thinking about recruiting a driver that's going to partner Max. You're potentially thinking about a driver that's going to
Succeed.
replace Max
Yep. Mhm.
because they don't because uh,
Yeah, but now Red Bull
the
are in a
more we
weird
see.
situation. No, they're in a weird situation. They're clearly going to lose the development race now, and this stuff takes years to kind of get back in there, right? So
Agreed.
maybe this year they managed to hang on, all courtesy to Max's talents. But next
On
year,
the in the drivers, yeah, not in the
yes,
constructors.
and the constructor is gone. I mean, we can't even talk about that. But next year, I wouldn't put them. I wouldn't place their chances ahead of Mercedes either. And Mercedes is a big question mark. I think it's McLaren, it's Ferrari. Then it's a question mark, and a question mark also of how quickly Aston can get up there because that's what they're going to see a lot of trouble initially. Those
Okay, so Amar, let's just focus this back in again. So drivers in contention for that Red Bull seat, right? 2026. So
everyone.
Max is potentially still there. You say everyone, but like I said at the top of this, and what
No,
you've
but
just alluded to, just
Max might be gone to Aston. He might retire. He might.
yeah, I
Those
agree.
two are very good options on
Yeah,
paper.
but he's still a potential to be there in 2026. So a fairly high chance that he's still there in 2026. But given what we've just talked about in terms of Red Bull's development and where they stand in terms of a constructor, I don't think they have the pulling power to necessarily one hold on to Max, and Max is definitely a flight risk for 2026. And I think Aston will do what they can to
25.
break contracts if they need to get Fernando to get Max in, even if that is potentially telling Lance to go
That's not
play
happening.
tennis or something. I don't know.
What's more, we were to bet money. I bet money that Lance keeps
Yeah,
that
yeah,
seat
yeah.
that he cost.
Yeah, agreed. So Max potentially is still at Red Bull, but there's a high likelihood that he is not there in 2026. So if that is the case, we need someone to replace him, who I think is not going to come from the Red Bull driver pool. I don't think. is probably going to need to come from another team. I think the most likely bet for that is going to be George Russell
Yep.
because I have a sneaky suspicion that
Yeah. They're gonna get him.
that
I think that
yeah,
that happens
but
even if Max doesn't decide to go to Mercedes. I would just say that too.
mm, as much as I would love to see Max Verstappen and George Russell in the same car, I'm not sure Red Bull have the appetite for that. But George might also have an ace up his sleeve, right? In that if Max goes off to Aston Martin, right, there's not suddenly a free seat. There's not suddenly a vacancy that he's taken at Mercedes. So those two drivers are safe, right? Kimi and George. They're not suddenly fighting for their futures because Max Verstappen's going to take one of their seats, right? But
Right.
I
He
genuinely think
has both
Aston is a
options there.
stronger bet
Correct.
than Merck. So then Red Bull have to do a pulling job, don't they? They have to actually
Try to pull Russell.
attract George to Red Bull and convince him that Red Bull of 2026 with a Red Bull powertrain untested engine, a technical team that's taken a massive hit because they don't have Adrian Newey anymore and have just lost their lead driver because of that. How are they then going to be like, George, come to us
Money.
versus money's not good enough, man. I don't think so. But money works if you have already won a championship and you want to go somewhere else, or it works if you don't think you're getting the best chance you possibly could do at the team that you're at, which may happen over the course of one
I
season.
mean,
Kimi might suddenly become the next coming of Ayrton Senna, maybe,
or Max, yeah. But you're right.
but
Okay,
I'm
but
not really
Shez,
sure.
but that's the thing, right? And we can place probabilities on this. But if Kimmy explodes, and we know Toto can be very sneaky, right? I mean, there's enough stories out there about how he can say one thing and publicly and then do something completely different, right? And
Yep.
clearly he's been flirting with Max, and he's said at very different times in ways that, yeah, again, we don't want to regurgitate, but his favorite would have been Max and then Kimmy next year. So George
But
probably knows enough of all of this. It's all about ego, right? At that point too, right? When we talked about Lando wanting to leave McLaren because they might push him out, the same thing could happen at Mercedes too.
yeah, but that would. I don't see George as an idiot though, and I can't imagine that he's going to go. Well, I've got a works engine here that is like, and he will have seen what the numbers are coming
Lewis,
out the dyno right now, in going into an engine formula, and go, oh yeah, I'm going to go to this untested team
I agree.
with an aero department that isn't very good, where the
No,
lead
I mean,
drivers just sodded off somewhere
I
else.
think he would be
I can't
smart
see
to
it.
stay there. He would be smart to stay there unless
Correct.
openings are surprise openings elsewhere. I mean, we say Ferrari are set, but again, you never know. Never know if Lewis decides to retire. That could be a big, who knows? Who knows
Not in
what,
26.
who,
Like
again,
the reason that,
the new rule
bruv,
set.
the reason he didn't want to commit to Mercedes because they wouldn't give him more than one
I
season.
understand that, but things change, right? Over time, things change. I mean, look, 2025 could prove a season that can be a season that could be defining for Lewis's legacy by winning that A championship, or he
Yeah,
could find
maybe.
himself
Yeah,
out
maybe.
of the top five
Maybe.
consistently. You
Yeah,
just you don't know. And that's my point, right? Is
maybe.
always a
I think
little.
if he finishes outside the top five, he'll
He
feel like he
might
has
he
a
might
point to
say, yeah,
prove.
this is it. He might.
Nah. I feel like if that happens, he'll feel like he has a point to prove. Whereas if he wins the championship, he might turn around and say, I'm happy now.
I don't
See ya,
know. I
yeah.
mean, they might be sabotaging him. So, but who knows? Oh, I needed to get that in there. But look, I agree. I mean, I agree with. Look, George would be in the driver's seat at that point, right? Especially if Max
Haha.
leaves Red Bull, then Red Bull have to go after
But
Lando
I
or
But
George.
yeah, because I think George will say no, and I think they'll have to go to Lando. Which brings us to their second seat, because I can't see Perez still in that seat in
He's probably
2026,
retired.
especially as well. Yes, so there's a rumor out. Planet F1 have reported it, and I think Joe Sayward has also said something of it. Believe of that what you will, my friends. That Sergio Perez is talking about retirement before the end of
Red
the
Bull will
season.
force them to because God knows they could do that easily. They can
Yeah, of
do
course they could. But yeah, of course they could. But at least they could let him do some donuts at the end of the race,
that'd be
perhaps.
great.
Yeah. And if that's the case, then Liam Lawson's potentially in there. Yuki Tsunoda.
No, he's not in.
Nah. Forget that.
Nothing will
No,
happen.
no chance, no chance.
The
Yuki
world can
Tsunoda
end
could
before
win.
that will happen.
Yuki Tsunoda could win the championship
Nothing. And
in the
Helmet
V
is
car
gonna say
next
not
year,
good
and
enough.
they still won't. No, he's not ready. Um, and then you've got Lindblad and Isaac Hadjar who are coming up. So potentially in 26, the Red Bull powers might just sack off um, Sonoda and Lawson and just put in Hadjar and
Might be a
Lindblad.
transition period for them. Who knows? If
Yeah,
Max.
yeah, and that might even happen halfway through 25 because we know how ruthless they are as an audition for the second seat in 26. So potentially that second seat could be any one of those four drivers, I think.
Carlos could be in the next.
I'm being cheeky.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but they've been so vocal about not having him. But I guess you're
Only
right.
because Max is
If they
better.
had a yeah, if they have a Lando Carlos lineup, yeah, I guess that could work. Battle of the number twos, I guess. I guess that could work.
Nice. I'm not gonna take that bait, but it's okay. We can keep going.
Ah,
They would
okay,
certainly
this
have
is
more synergy than any other team. Let's just put it
yeah,
that
yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think this is quite a complex sort of puzzle to try and fit together because there's a lot of different people and a lot of different situations that could happen. But I think if I was going to hedge my bets and say this is what I think is going to happen, I think we're probably going to see Max go to Aston for 2026, Fernando retire. Sorry, mate. And then we'll have George and Kimi sticking it out in the Mercedes. And I think McLaren will probably end up in 2026 being Bortoleto and
Wow, you're really
Piastri.
a train, huh?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so because I can't see how they don't put him in their car
You loan him out
and
somewhere else.
don't to who
I
to
don't know
who
any other
they
contender.
mate they don't if they loan him out to another contender that contender takes him, that's it, he's gone, he's not
What
coming
if he
back.
what if he goes to I guess not a I mean contender is probably the wrong way to put it. Send him up to a team lower down the order. Maybe a Williams, who knows?
Williams already locked into to Sainz and Albon on
The
long-term
season
deals.
after. I mean, look, Albon could be on his way out too. Who knows?
Mm.
No,
But it's not a
they wouldn't
given.
take Gabriel Bortoleto over Alex Albon.
Nah.
Okay,
I don't know. I don't know. Because, the problem for them is that they've got Franco Colapinto at the moment, who is their own development, who's their own, driver academy driver.
with
Like,
themselves, but it's not.
and he's not doing badly, is he?
No,
So,
not at all.
I don't think so. So I think most likely you're going to have a Bortoleto Piastri lineup, and I think you're going to have, and here we go, hot take. I think is at Red Bull, it's going to be Norris Lindblad.
Oh,
You heard it here first.
oof. Wow, that is I can't top that really. The only thing I would say is maybe Lewis retires. Like that's the only strange theory I can come up with.
It's yeah. I don't have the headspace to be able to factor that into my mullings as well, unfortunately.
Yeah, and then Ferrari ends up with Max and Charles. How about that?
Mate, that'd be so much fun. I'd love to watch that. Anyway, on that bombshell, what do you guys think? That was a meandering, convoluted route to the 2026 lineups. I'm not sure we've got it right. Maybe we have. What do you guys think?
Could possibly get it right.
Hit us a like, definitely subscribe, leave us a comment. We'll read all of them. We'll respond to as many as we possibly can. And we will see you guys in the next one.
Later.